In the grim darkness of 2026, there is only Kuso, which is why we're here at Off the Deep End, a Deep Listens podcast that covers role-playing video games in depth. I'm your host, Braden Arbitrary Water Redacted, the rip in peace of this gallivanting crusade. Joining me is the people turning into monsters disease of this podcast, Chris Zombie Pie Redacted.
Hello, everybody. Do you have a personal favorite mid '90s, late '90s Japanese studio or publishing label that has since fallen into obscurity? For me, it's probably Synergy Inc. because they did all of those weird Myst clones, and then Zedis, Servant of Sheol.
I mean, I'm on record as a Genki fan.
I'd like to see more
Joining
from
me
T&E Soft.
is
No.
Yeah?
Yes, more Hydlide. Bring back Hydlide.
I agree.
Oh.
I agree. Joining me is stupid, idiot-faced pervert, Adam Borkmaster Redacted.
I have no regrets. Faints.
Yeah. And finally, joining us once again on this festive occasion to bring in the new year, we have Cassidy from the Bad Game Hall of Fame. The I got a rash on my ass. Or I don't want your cash, I want your sincerity. Show me your sincerity of the podcast.
The annual tradition, it continues.
And we're here to discuss maybe the most exciting kusoge we've played since Hoshiwo Mirohito. We are here to discuss Ancient Roman Power of Dark Side.
All right, so
But before
question:
that-
what is the power of dark side anyway? Is it like lightning from the fingertips?
The Power of Dark Side is well, as someone who is currently painting some Warhammer figurines, it turns out the Power of Dark Side is just fucking trim on all of the Space Marine armor that makes it way harder to paint.
I mean, it is the power to apparently destroy the entire planet, and then it comes back and you just destroy it again. The cycle just seems to continue without any sort of pause or rhyme or reason, or really any motivation for it either. I guess I didn't listen to the audio drama CD. Maybe that fills in the blanks.
Yes, the deep lore of Ancient Roman. But before we get started with that, remember you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/deeplistens. Giving us $1 will let you join our Discord and yell at us about our bad takes. Giving us $3 will let you listen to our anime podcast, the Ojisan Cast. Apparently, the Afro Samurai podcast never got posted, but the Excel
We'll
Saga
deal with that.
podcast just dropped, and I've liked that one pretty good. We might need to re-record our Afro
Podcast.
Samurai
Yeah.
podcast.
A feeling that I think even I've been doing this long enough to remember when Cass debuted. I've never actually mentioned this to Cass. I've also talked to one Jeff Rude, who was a part of the original crew behind Hardcore Gaming 101. Everyone in this hobbyist podcasting crease or even streaming crease, you've lost something at some point that you deeply regret having lost in terms of the archives or the VOD. And it sucks every time, and there's no good solution ever.
Well,
Also, it's
I've
Jeff Small.
made an effort to archive everything as best I can. Every stream, and I do mean every stream, even the ones that I don't post publicly, I still sit on those archives. I believe in archival
have so many of
preservation,
those
some would
too.
call it.
So what you're saying is it's a skill issue.
Yeah, everyone's lost
lost
something at some point.
That's true.
But yeah, it's gotten a little bit easier. I definitely, though, like the whole Twitch deciding to not actually protect your shit and automatically deleting it after X number of days didn't help. But yeah,
You
Man.
live and you learn.
Yep, you sure do. You sure do.
And Cass, do you want to do your plugs at the up front and then at the end?
Oh, sure. So I run a Bad Game Hall of Fame. I curate I got a panel of co-commentators. We're doing the streaming thing. We used to write 40,000 word articles about bad games, and that was too much work for not enough return. So now we do streams for which we still put too much work into, and still don't get enough return. But you can't stop me. I'm too stubborn to quit now. I've been doing this Bad Game Hall of Fame thing for going on 10 years now. So it'd be crazy to change my course of action
No,
now.
never.
BadGameHallOfFame.com, or you go to twitch.tv, look up Bad Game Hall of Fame on there, and I'm sure you'll find it. YouTube, another
Yeah.
website.
Patreon. You guys just finished Virtua Quest. Speaking of questionable JRPGs.
It's hard to call that one an RPG because there's absolutely no RPG mechanics in it.
Yeah, it's a weird marriage of things. Sorry.
No, Mel, you're right. It's a very strange marriage that was quickly annulled, and they have not revisited it since. Even though it is a part of the Virtua Fighter franchise, it's bastard 3D beat 'em up spinoff. We're always playing
Well,
something strange over on that show.
now that Virtua Fighter 6 is happening, surely the time is now to bring back Virtua Quest.
Damn right, Sei's gonna be the most OP character in that game. Even though by the time Virtua Fighter 6 is happening, I think he'd be like a fetus if he's even like, a thought in his father's eyes at that point in time.
So I just have two questions. Would you rather have another Virtual Quest or a Tool Ball number 3?
Ooh,
Tobal.
God.
I'd have to
Tobal.
say Tobal, just because they'd have such a crazy amount of characters in a Tobal number 3. Tobal 2 had what, like 200, 300? So now they'd get into
Yeah.
the thousands.
Okay, so
Yeah.
question number 2. I've never met you before, so I have to ask. What is your favorite 3DO game?
Oh, that's a good question. What's the Iron Angel of the Apocalypse? That's the weirdo first person shooter on there. It's not good, but I like it a lot. I appreciate what it is trying to cook. So I guess I'd go with that just as a gut answer.
Okay, yeah, you're
Mercenary is pretty cool.
And
We should
I like
clarify
Dr.
why
Hauser.
Borg asked that question. Borg does a feature where they have committed to playing every single 5th generation video game in chronological North American release order. So that includes the 3DO, the Atari Jaguar.
The Jaguar. Say it right. The Jaguar.
Didn't you
Jaguar?
also play a shit ton of CDI games at one point?
No, that was someone else.
Okay, but yeah.
Yeah, Iron Age of the Apocalypse is
Alright.
cool.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
But
it
now
is.
we're getting our own Age of Apocalypse with our own game that looks like it could have come out on the 3DO. Ancient Roman Power of Darkside came out in April of 1998. It was developed by Fuga System. Or was it? Fuga System previously are responsible for a series of PC-98 dungeon crawlers called Amaranth. You can tell they were a big deal because they don't have an English language Wikipedia page. And here's another fun thing is immediately we are left with maybe this wasn't made by Fuga System. It might have been made by a different company called Nihon System.
Well, should I get into this a little bit?
Yes,
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
Because we reached a muddy, muddled
You did the research on this.
path, and we were confused.
So when we streamed this playthrough of Ancient Roman, which we did over on Twitch, and it's archived on YouTube somewhere. When we do our streams, when it comes to a game as big a deal as Ancient Roman, and it is a big deal that this got translated thanks to the efforts of one Snowy Aria, a hero in the kusoge scene.
She also just translated Air's Adventure for the Saturn.
Damn right she did. They're always working hard on something. I'm waiting for St. Elmo's Daiseki, I believe. It's the Sega Saturn JRPG, Kusoge, Extravaganza, that I'm hoping one of these damn days I get to play. I've been waiting for years to play Ancient Roman. Ancient Roman had, and I promise I'll get to the developer and publisher information, but the reason people know about this game is because of a YouTuber, a Japanese YouTuber by the name of Karasuma A, who dug up this game from obscurity sometime in like the late 2019, early 2020. Quickly, one of the characters in one of the FMVs, their reaction became something of a meme over on the Japanese web, and I was tuned into some of this stuff, and I'd been waiting for the day where I could play it. So as soon as it was translated, within a week, we had our playthrough up and running. And whenever we do our playthroughs, I feel obligate to do a history section. So if you watch the first episode of the VOD, there's a history where we get into the information I could dig up on this game. So, okay, key takeaways. The credited developer are one Nihon System, who are also the credited publisher for the game. But they did have a history of developing some games prior to that. They had worked with Sega, I believe, on conversions of Raiden. For the arcades and the consoles, and they'd worked on that Sega Gigas hardware on developing the bespoke chipset for those games in the arcade. So it wasn't like they came out of nowhere, but they were not established in the RPG space. And so for that, when they saw the success of a Final Fantasy VII, I don't know if you ever heard of that one, kind of moderate to big deal in around the mid 90s.
There's
So I think
one of those.
yeah, I know. And believe it or not, they're still milking that cow dry. Believe it or not, they're still putting out games in that long running IP. I couldn't believe it either. So I think they saw the success of a Final Fantasy VII. It's specifically because that's very much what this is trying to ape in terms of like the cast of characters and the world spanning and the presentation of it and so on and so forth. But again, these Nihon System folk, not necessarily JRPG developers. Now, Fuga System, those are some JRPG guys. They'd done that Amaranth series for the PC 98. They'd run that for a while, and this is around the time that I think T&E Soft mentioned previously that certain folk from there, like Tokihiro Naito, who was the father of Hydlide, he had left that studio to spin off like a side studio to develop a game by the name of Runeworth. So you had a lot of like concurrent PC 98 RPGs that were coming out and were kind of missing the boat. And a lot of these studios were looking for a way to jump into 3D. And so I think Fuga System, for their part, were waiting for someone to like toss the budget at them to give them the Iggy, the okay to upgrade to that next level of hardware, to the PlayStation. And I believe it was Nihon System who recruited them as such. And it's a strange case too, because this game here was, I think, the opening they recognized, the thing they recognized that they could do better than Final Fantasy VII, the thing that Final Fantasy VII slacked on, and what is really a big deal in this game is the voice acting, which isn't to say they have any big name voice actors, because they don't, but they made a big deal out of the recruitment process for finding voice actors. There is a Japanese Seiyu magazine, like a trade publication where people get industry news on the profession of voice acting for anime, for video games, what have you. And Nihon System had the resources to broker a deal with that magazine to put out like a full-on competition for recruiting first-time voice actors, young talent, to provide the voices in what would become Ancient Roman Power of Darkside, as well as putting out that audio drama CD. So I think that was their big want here, was to establish a JRPG, a new JRPG franchise with all the accoutrements you would expect from the world of anime, with all the side materials and opportunities to market it, to create a cast of characters who would become immediately iconic, and to have actors associated with those roles so they could sell those drama CDs or maybe have an anime spin-off down the line. And so the way this splits is Fuga System, they brought the technical know-how in terms of making the actual game product. Nihon System were the ones trying to helm the franchise, who probably had the creative direction in mind, who probably provided like, all right, and here's the beats we want to hit, here's the character designs, mock-ups of this sort of stuff. And so it's important to have all that context to understand how the split works. It's also important to understand that everyone who was a part of Fuga System denies having worked on this game in any capacity. The Fuga system folk, after Ancient Roman's release and widespread mockery, folk who have been tracked down from that studio at this point will claim like, no, 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 it was all Nihon system. We didn't have anything to do with that. Even though demonstrably, like the names in the credits, if you cross-reference them against other games that people on the development staff had worked on, it's all Fuga system when it comes to like the actual programming and asset rendering and all that stuff. So to answer your question, to make a long story short, yes, Fuga System are the developers, Neon System are the Dreamweavers.
The producers,
Yes.
essentially. So they went with Fuga because probably Toze was unavailable.
Busy that week. They were
Yeah,
washing their hair.
They probably also would have asked for more money, but yeah.
Also,
a lot
Tosei
of
has made competent video games before.
yeah, because they have also probably tripled the number of employees of Fuga Systems on a good day. I mean, it's not cast to get to the idea that this is probably like an attempt to make something big out of like, this is the intro to this thing that we hope becomes this multifaceted, media empire or media franchise, all sorts of collaboration stuff. Like, the culture for that dates all the way back to like the PC 98. Like, it's probably lost to anyone that didn't live in like Japan and parts of Taiwan, but this kind of started with Tengai Makio on the PC 98 with Hudson and even I think Red Company making a shit ton of money on Tengai Makio. And so much so that there was a period of time where that franchise was actually probably more popular than Dragon Quest and even Final Fantasy within Japan in the 16-bit era. So, and then once, Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy take that torch, the desire is to make something that also could be sold to the OVA companies. And so you can kind of see that. And it's undeniable that there was some ambition for this to be given to other people to work on and expand upon. And that was interesting at times.
Certainly so, but you got to have at the end of the day, the most important part of this formula of this process is to have a game that compels people to attach themselves to the franchise. At the end of the day, you can have all the marketing money in the world and all the dreams and ambitions, but if the game itself, the anchor for this whole cross media empire is rotten and rusted, and it doesn't tether your ship down, then you're just going to drift off into the oceans of obscurity.
Yep.
Oh, I don't
So
know about
then-
that. Idea Factory proves otherwise.
Well, they also made their own OVAs.
They
and I
they
think
made
that-
their own OVAs. That was the
But-
secret.
So there isn't. So because everyone denies working on it, no one knows what went wrong with Ancient Roman.
Well, there's a few things known. As far as, well, one thing that should be noted is that a demo disc for this game did at some point leak out into the world, demonstrating like a snapshot of progress on the game before its release, where there were more features. They had like anime style cut-in graphics where it would like zoom in on the characters' faces during their attacks. They had different character models during the fights that were more detailed in the way like Final Fantasy VII's in-game battle models are a bit nicer than the world models. And in the final version of Ancient Roman, they swapped that stuff out. They changed it around. The impression that you get from looking at this demo and some of the stuff scrapped and cut is that they had a lot of ambition and they were committed to that ambition. And then they started running into hell of technical problems at a certain point, issues they could not overcome in terms of programming, in terms of optimization. One of the things that is present in that demo that becomes a recurring theme later in the story is that the sound, the music drivers, completely busted. So the music is as asynchronous and disharmonious in that demo as it winds up being in the final game. It still has all the stuttering problems where anytime any action happens in the game, it has to have a nice long think about it. So before every attack, and I know we're getting into the gameplay a little bit early here, but this is just talking about the demo. where before any attack animation, the game has to pause for like a half a second, take a beat before it's like, and we'll play this now. So it's clear to tell from that, and then given whatever length of time between that demo coming out in the final game, that their solution to the problems they were running into in terms of the game not running at pace was just to start slashing stuff, was to start cutting and ripping stuff out of the game. And I have to imagine that also results in a lot of like cutscenes and dialogue and things they probably had planned, even if not developed already, things they had actually rendered being ripped out of the game and leaving giant gaping holes in the narrative and in the amount of content on offer as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it would
Yes.
not surprise me.
So perhaps the
But
kind of thing where funding gets pulled. It's like, okay, you have 2 days to finish the game, kind of thing.
And yeah, to get that
Perhaps.
straight line from A to B, you just have to start ripping stuff out, shortening that path to there as much as you can. Anything that isn't like working fully as intended just ends up getting scrapped or falls by the wayside past a
Or
certain
filled
point.
with placeholder stuff that doesn't get fully rendered or realized. Yeah.
Now, of course, this is all speculative, and as you
Mhm.
mentioned, because no one wants to take credit for this thing, it's very doubtful that we'll ever get the full story on this one unless someone decides to take some ownership over this at some point in the future.
Which was
But
like the one like point of praise for the wonderful people behind Hoshiwo Mirohito is eventually people did track down people behind that game and like, yeah, it's just it was a different era. We didn't know what we were making and the template wasn't established yet and we just went for it and it didn't work out.
But the thing with
But
Ancient Roman is, if it wasn't so technically busted, it would be a video game of some kind or another. Which is why it does feel like, the plug got pulled at some point and they just threw what they had out the door. But that's the way it feels because you don't unoptimize a game like that unless you absolutely have to,
It's
right?
shocking. It's frankly shocking the state that it releases in to where, yes, at some point, most certainly, it went out the door before they were happy with it. I just can't imagine a scenario in which the people at Fuga, at Nihon System, were pleased as punch with the way things had turned out. They had to have been under the gun, running out of money, some confluence of circumstance that forced them to put out what they had to tidy it up as much as they could before kicking it out the door into an unsuspecting public.
I mean, like, there's just so much evidence that this is not fully rendered or fully optimized because if even playing the game how we played it, those goddamn load times, holy shit. And the snap away establishing shot whenever you're like exploring a city and you can just see, hey, yo, this is way too pulled out. What the fuck? And then you see the UI, which feels like a placeholder, the small character figures moving their arms in weird, juddery ways where it's like, oh, you're just literally just moving them up and down because that's all you got. It
I
just
I I would
feels like
like
that.
to entreat all of our listeners to, if you have not seen any footage of this game, you should look up some footage, either from, Cass's stream or other videos of it on the internet, because this game has a quality to it just from watching, let's say, 15 minutes of gameplay footage, where you will not be able to. It takes a second to realize that it's a real video game, in the same way that, like, when I first saw Virtual High Glide, it was a real, my eyes cannot comprehend what they are seeing sort of deal.
Yeah, the sheer beauty of
And
it.
yes, and this game has a similar beautiful pastiche to it, where uh remember, this is a PlayStation game that came out in 1998. 1998,
One whole year after Final Fantasy VII.
yes, a year after Final Fantasy VII.
The year of Xenogear.
Yes, the
Parasite
year of
Eve?
Xenogears, the year of Parasite Eve. If you just want, I don't know, a
A Christmas
square
game.
soft video game with really good looking 3D models and pre-rendered 2D backgrounds, just for an example. I don't know, maybe we'll talk about that at some point during our own end of year wrap up. But
So there's an expert here. Am I crazy for thinking like these character models in pre-rendered environments look like a early '90s micro cabin game?
No, you're not wrong to say that.
Oh, okay.
I would say the point of comparison was made to like a 3DO game from 1994, I believe. And
But like
yeah,
Guardian Wars looks better than this.
this game is rich multimedia as hell. It looks
Oh
like
yeah, it
something that would have
is.
come out in the early 90s. Like in terms of like the backdrops, there's just like such abstract imagery that's honestly like very creative for what it is. It is honestly like kind of bordering on surreal in a way that is almost like aesthetically pleasing. Uh
So
and
like
it just
it's a system SACOM.
yeah, no,
Core.
absolutely.
Okay.
That level. And then you get into the character models, which, as we've mentioned, are most often depicted in the typical chibi style. Think your Final Fantasy VII world map. Or navigating around those spaces with the pre-rendered backdrops, as mentioned before, that are, if not completely abstract, like in the cases of some like the fairy village or the elf village, or some of the places you'll go are mostly just your generic JRPG towns, very unoccupied, very sparse, desolate places. Always zoomed
Yep.
out, I should say.
Zoomed
The
out.
opposite of
Yeah.
zoomed in, to where you're getting like a bird's eye view. And by bird's eye, I mean like a bird flying like hundreds of feet up in the air, looking down at the action.
from a
It's
weird angle.
From a
always
like an almost Dutch angle
never
and all.
not baffling and never helpful, never useful, especially when there's like a lot of hidden stuff. I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute. Things that you'll have to really carefully examine environments to find, but the game just absolutely doesn't help you out with that, doesn't give you any sort of visual assist with that stuff. But then the crown jewel here, the cherry on top, are the FMV
Oh,
cutscenes,
they're so
which
good.
are c'est magnifique. Just wonderful. And by wonderful, I do mean like primitive. I mean like we're talking like Go-Go 13, the professional helicopter scene levels of rendering on some of these like action set pieces that are encapsulated within these CGI FMVs. And they are voice acted at the very least.
Yeah.
That's where the voice acting really comes into play, because it doesn't really come through in the gameplay itself, or it doesn't come through in the. Not every line of dialogue is voice acted, and there is a lot of dialogue in this game, so it's kind of a shame, honestly. But you do get it in the FMVs. And the way characters are rendered there, what are meant to be like these are the figurine shots. These are the shots that show you these characters in all their gorgeous detail to inspire you to buy them, to buy their likenesses as statuettes or whatever other hobby material they were undoubtedly planning to release in conjunction with this game. And it just could not look any worse for what they were trying to accomplish. Again, a game like Final Fantasy VII comes out a year prior, and granted, they have the full benefit of the full Squaresoft machine, like churning out some of the most like beautifully rendered FMV you'd ever seen by that point. And so there's going to be a difference in budget, and it still falls well below what I think par would have been for 1998.
Do you
Now,
want to describe the man who was outrageously blown away?
Oh
well,
yeah,
we
the
probably should.
intro cutscene alone, probably the most iconic passed around image from ancient Roman, I think, online is that intro with the blown up face and the particles.
So, does anyone else want to take this? Because
I'll
I can
do it.
describe it, please.
Okay, so one could describe this as like some sort of tech demo showing the power of polygonal graphics in like, I don't know, 91 or something, being like, this is what the power of future computing will allow for. And it's a bald polygonal face that then is blown away into many small triangles while he is making an O face.
I was gonna say he was pogging out.
Yeah, making a
This poor
pogger
guy.
face.
What you're
Youths.
seeing there is the destruction of the Earth, as mentioned earlier. The intro cutscene opens with just the complete destruction of a village and then the planet, and of this man who turns to shards, who, in the face of this great overwhelming power of dark side, which is very bright, mind you, is like a white blinding light, not very dark at all if you ask me, but it just turns to triangles. Every polygon comes off of him and then fades into dust. And you shed a single tear watching it. And then to show the Earth getting destroyed again, which is to imply the second cycle of the Earth being destroyed in this fantasy universe.
So I think I have something for that. Because I did a playthrough of it on stream, and people in the Deep Listens community got to watch me go insane. So the extra content at the end, I guess, spoilers for the plot? Question mark. You do find ruins of like that ancient civilization. I forget the name of it. Doesn't matter. But that the second destruction, the planet doesn't blow up. You just see like a city get nuked by something. So maybe the first time the whole planet blew up from like a supernova. The second time, it was like a meteor shower or something, like destroyed a bunch of the surface, and that's what that like those ancient ruins are from, of like the advanced civilization, ancient ruins, where Burke does his thing with the elf, and like those optional side quests. So I think they might have wanted to do something with that, maybe, because that's like a pretty standard JRPG thing to do. So that might be the second destruction there.
You might be right. It's hard to tell, and that what you're referencing is hidden content, is side content that is accessible for a 15-minute window in the game, where you get to see the big crystal that is apparently the MacGuffin of the whole plot, is actually seeing it and bearing witness to it and having that context for what it is.
Oh, no, this is a different one.
I know which one you're talking about from later in the game now. Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, like the end of game, like they're Knights of the Round equivalent type of side quest.
That's right,
at the end. Yeah.
But you can see my point of confusion, because there are multiple instances in this game where there are very brief windows where you can go on side quests to get some of the legendary weapons, to get plot development, to get like actual context for the video game you're playing, to understand what is happening in the plots. And the windows of time are like 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. And the problem is the game never, ever makes any indication or even a hint at the existence of like half of this shit. So there's like... I don't want to get too much into detail, because we should probably summarize the plot at some point, at least attempt to, for as much of it is available, for as much of it is parsable. But like, characters will come in and out of your party in this game. I think there's a grand total of 8 party members. 3 of them are temporary, and there's nothing you can really do to keep them around in the long term. And there's one character who joins your party for like a grand total of like one traversal from like one area to another.
Traversal and all the battles there,
like one dungeon, right?
He's
basically. And you have to just intuitively understand that with this character in your party, there are things you can do in areas that you've already been to that he will have some amount of input on, soldiers that you can talk to that will respect his authority and give him insights. And then also, back in the first area of the game, backtracking to the very beginning of the game, where this guy would have no real context or care for what you're looking at, he knows how to open a door. It's not like a door that requires a special key or like some gem or some power from within. No, he's just like, well, I could just kick this door down. I could just push extra hard on this door, and this will lead you to a revelation that you are otherwise completely missing out on. Even though the entire opening act of the game is all the villains talking about, well, there's this crystal we're mining for, and we're using all these people as slave labor to mine out this crystal, and we found the crystal, time to kill all the people in our slave camp, which includes your protagonist Kai and several of his friends turned party members. And like, if you don't know to go back to that part of the game about at the halfway point through the game, if you don't know to go all the way back, you never get to see that crystal. It never comes up again in the plot either way, but it's nice to know that it's there. It's nice to see the thing, which is apparently such a big fucking deal that the bad guy's entire plan hinges on it. And you destroy it.
It's not that powerful, because Burke just punches it and it's gone.
He just looks at it funny and it explodes spectacularly.
Yeah. Also, Cass, just to like highlight how there's no motivation for the player to organically explore the world. One of the things that immediately your brain just starts to realize about this game that's busted Now, admittedly, I did not finish this game for the purposes of this podcast, but I did watch Borg play this. The battle balance is not good, and even with the chunk that I played, it makes
There's
kind of like the Hoshiwo Mirahito mistake of the start is pretty rough if you're not careful and you don't kind of like understand what it's trying to do in those brief
is
introductory
it?
moments. But then it falls off a cliff in terms of the difficulty, like just everything. The balance, it's not good. So you have no reason to explore the world or go off the beaten path because there's no desire to complete side quests like you normally would in an RPG to like engage in unofficial grinding. So if you just follow the main path, it's very rare. There are a few times when it will kick your teeth in, but there are very few times when the game like forces you to do additional non-necessary things.
Well, there's
Even
only
like from a
one
gameplay
fight in the
perspective.
game that'll give you a spanking, and that's like the first form of the last boss. All right, so there's an expert here. I want to get your opinion because I think I had a revelation about the combat design, but I might be insane. It seems like it's balanced in a way to where even if you're over leveled, the actual fights are supposed to be really fast because you kill enemies in like 1 to 3 hits, and they can kill your party in 2 or 3, like a party member in 2 or 3 hits as well. So it seems like it's supposed to be like a 1-2 round fight, like just by design.
That might be true. It is hard to say because the progression is so borked. Because the side quests that you do to get, let's just say, that structurally this game makes absolutely no sense. The progression was created by madmen.
This game
You're
is paced by insane people.
you're doing these quests to find like these weapons that are immediately obsoleted by the time you make it to the next dungeon, that are
Yep.
ultimately all obsoleted at the end of the game, where the game forces you to take every character on a side quest to get their best armor and best weapon, which you absolutely need for the end act. So there's not like going out of your way to make your characters as powerful as possible. By necessity of the plot of the structure of the game, you have the best character possible by the end game. So I don't think they were really interested in teasing out the grind, or having you have to go out of your way if you don't want to in order to engage with those superfluous mechanics, except for a few rare instances like getting your main character's ultimate weapon. His ultimate weapon is tied to one of those brief window of time type side things you can do without any indication. If you want your main character to be as powerful as possible, you don't need Kai to be super powerful. You can just sub him out for any other party member with their ultimate weapon, and ultimately, none of what we're saying matters. Absolutely not a single aspect of the game, of the combat encounters, of the design matters, because at a certain point in the game, you get a weapon called the Sleep Axe that puts
Uh-huh.
enemies to sleep for 3 turns, and then the rest of the game is a cakewalk
Yep.
without any difficulty whatsoever, because you can just put every enemy to sleep, including the bosses, for 3 turns at a time. And they just give that to you at a certain point in the game. They're like, you should have this. And they never at any point think to like limit its use or effectiveness. So they
Or
they
give
had to
enemies
have known.
resistances against it. Nope.
Yeah,
Mm.
like plenty of JRPGs from this era love to have their little hidden shit behind small windows, like Aerith's level 4 limit in Final Fantasy VII that you can only get for a very brief window, or uh the Tales of games love to hide a bunch of skits and side quests behind, and then there's the Trails people. And
Well, Trails is much later.
how much later though? Only eight
Like,
years.
But those all feel like fun little Easter eggs
Yeah.
that don't like feel like completely
Y-
necessary scaffolding to understand why the world works or why you're even doing things the way that it
there
is
are
in
plenty
this
of
game.
JRPGs that also hide important plot threads behind random side bullshit, but this game is especially egregious because first off, random points of the story that are never brought up again have some level of resolution question mark in these side bits. Uh, but also, once again, yes, you have the sleep axe. You have Burke with the sleep axe, and therefore combat is meaningless. Even if
Except for the first form of the final boss, where
Yeah.
where there's 3 of them, so you have to survive 3 turns to put them all to sleep.
It's so fascinating because yes, they do hide so much of like the seemingly important plot details, but they're also hiding skits and they're also hiding just completely superfluous but interesting little like narrative threads throughout the game. And thank God for Snowy Aria, who not only translated the game but documented this game
yes,
in a
she
way
wrote
that
a game facts guide.
in a way that not even the Japanese web had latched onto. She was solving stuff that had just remained completely unknown. Maybe if there had been like a strategy guide or hint book for this game, maybe that's what it was all about. Maybe it was all just a means of like, hey, buy the hint book if you want to engage with all the side content. Who's to say? Who knows what was going on in the minds of Nihon Systems? All you can say for sure is that some amount of love and attention was put into details that 95% of people who would engage with the game would just never come across because it's so poorly hinted at or clued in. And there is something almost magical about that, if you ask me. Like, one of your characters, Farah, one of your party members who's in your party for like a minute before she gets injured and has to take some time off. And by time off, I mean she's gone for the rest of the game until an incredible moment. You know, spoiler
Oh,
alert, but she
mhm.
shows up during the final boss fight to help you out at the last second when everything looks grim. And it is one of the most hype moments I've ever encountered in a JRPG. They do absolutely nothing to build up to it, but for just because I loved that character, because of the way that during our little streaming thing we had given her the voice of an angel, which is to say, a voice that sounds kind of like this. So we our audience was in love with this character who was like really present for like a grand total of like 20 minutes. But her coming back was just like the best thing ever. Anyway, she fucks off from the game at a certain point. But if you think to visit her periodically while she's in recovery, you'll get like more details about her. You'll get interactions that are kind of cute. And then she ultimately knits you like a scarf for your main character because she has a crush on your main character. And that's like, you look at something like that and you're like, oh, like the developers really thought they were doing something here. That's adorable. They really thought they were cooking with this. They really thought like they were developing this character and the relationship between this character and your main character. And you know, that's just, it's so sweet of them. They failed it. They completely fucked it up. It's a complete disaster of character growth and through lines and you know arcs and whatnot. But like the efforts there, and that's kind of fascinating. And the fact that it's completely obfuscated and unknown to the broader public who have even people who played the game back in the day is like something to be discovered, something for them to find out years after the fact and be like, fucking really? That happened? That existed in this game? Back when I played it in 1998, I just assumed it was a piece of shit. But now you're telling me it's a piece of shit with a bunch of secrets in it? Well, isn't that something? It's not to get to the conclusion here too early, but there are aspects of this game that are just utterly fascinating to me from a design perspective that if it were in the hands of more competent developers or at the very least people who had like the time and money and whatever sort of budget to really realize their dream could have been like a very fascinating, very multi-layered JRPG. And the problems in execution are ultimately like why it is memorable. But there was a reality, an alternate universe in which this game is fully realized and recognized as possibly a lost classic. But instead, we live in the world where it's seen as a joke, but like a really fascinating joke,
Oh
a
yeah,
really
no.
layered joke.
A venerable JRPG Drake of the 99 Dragons.
This
I kept
game,
thinking
I would
of
say,
Drake
is
of
the
99
most
Dragons when I was
incompetent
playing.
JRPG we have played since Secret of the
Yeah.
Stars. In terms
Yeah,
of just like they understood the form of JRPG. They did not understand the function of JRPG. And that's why there are chunks of this game where you just don't have combat for like 5 hours.
yeah.
Well, another fun thing, a debug feature they left in is the ability to not have any combat encounters ever outside of the
That's
scripted
right.
ones. If you just hold down the circle button in the overworld or areas where there'd be random encounters, you just turn them off. They just don't
Yeah.
happen. You can just like opt out of that if you so choose. And
Which
again, is that a documented feature? No, absolutely not. Why would it be? But it's there.
which means that
That
they
might be an
they
actual
felt like
bug
they yeah, it might be a bug.
because that's the interact button usually. So maybe if you're just constantly interacting, it doesn't you can't trigger a random battle.
No, it's literally if you're holding down the circle button at any
Yeah.
moment, moving around, it's not a matter of press. It's just like you don't gotta tap it. It's just hold it down, and you are just encounter free. So it could be a situation where it's like activating some flag, like character actively attempting to interact, disable encounters for this, or it could just be like a debug feature they forgot to take out. Any number of reasons, but either way, it's a mistake.
Yeah, they
And
shouldn't have put it in. Maybe they saw the encounter none feature in several Final Fantasy games and like, well, we'll put that in. We have such confidence in our cinematics and the world that we feel like cutting out the combat is the best decision. This game will be even better as a result. And um, boy, I agree with everything that you said, and Braden as well. But every now and again, this game just does surreal shit that you don't see in any RPG. Any RPG, whether it's cut from the CRPG branch or the JRPG branch, that is just surreal, bizarre. Like I'm just flabbergasted. Where did this idea come from? Like the enemies appearing as if they're like folded pieces of paper of origami, and then you explicably like shoot them into the sky upon defeating them. Like, where did this come from? Why is this the way that it is? And
Could
it's
this
just
have inspired the ring outs in Smash Brothers?
it's like unintentionally hilarious to watch like these weird isms that just exist solely in this game. It's bizarre. I love it.
a masterpiece, an absolute masterpiece in unintentional comedy.
Oh
And
yeah,
there
it's
are
maybe the funniest game we've played in quite some time.
Yes.
So are we
Like-
saying that there needs to be more games where the characters actively lose track of the plot and say, "Hey, what we're doing again?"
well, I think
Yeah.
that's just the state of games right now, where characters need to be constantly reminded of what they're doing and
I
whatnot.
need to remember what I'm doing.
I think I'm going after some guy named Bowser. I should call Princess Peach and check in with her.
This is
She'll
why the
remind me of
AAA
objective.
Mario meme is the funniest video game meme of 2025.
It came in right at the tail end, but it's
Yeah,
very
but
welcome.
it's just yeah.
All right, so I would say the one redeeming quality I saw in this thing was the amount of banter between the party members, basically at all stages in the journey. It made it feel like it's an actual ensemble of idiots who are just
Which-
chuckle fucking their way through this adventure.
Better
And like
games have failed to do.
that, better games I feel like Final Fantasy VII didn't even really do that well.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say, is that this game really hones in on it in a way that Final Fantasy VII absolutely did not. And I think that comes back to Fuga and Nihon recognizing the opportunity to do a JRPG where the characters are really fleshed out. Now, mind you, maybe like 3 of the 9 characters that you get in your party are actual trained fighters, are actual people who are purpose built for combat and war and situations of that sort. Your first 3 characters are literally just people from a mining village that break out of it, and then your main character discovers at a certain point that he's actually the prince apparent to a kingdom that he wasn't even aware of, because he just thought he was a nobody, but he discovers that he's a somebody, and that becomes a big thrust for him in the plot. But like most of your guys are just kind of like goofballs. Most of them have like no context for the grander world because they haven't been in the outside world, because they've lived in this mining village for half their lives, and those are your principals. Those are your principal cast. So by the time they're like cajoling and talking to like the wizards and monks and kings and bishops and all these people who represent the nobility or townspeople outside of it. They're just like, I have no idea who you are or how the world works, but I'm anxious to find out. And you find out with them. It's a journey of discovery in that sort of way. But they're all, even the ones who are combat trained, all of your characters are complete morons. And that's wonderful. It's incredibly charming. All of your characters have huge gaping character flaws that make them would make them unlikable and do make them unlikable to one another. Like almost no one in your party gets along with one another. A lot of the game are just like these conflicts, these just like issues, personal issues, as
Yeah,
bickering.
a lot of
And
bickering.
but at the same time, that is an opportunity for a lot of dialogue. That is an opportunity for a lot of banter, for them to have scenes where the action just comes to a grinding halt, so you can have your anime hot spring scene as an Easter egg scene you can unlock,
Okay,
or
so
just
so I'm really sorry. That scene, I think they were trying to comment on that trope instead of just doing the trope, because Kai doesn't want to go into the hot spring to see Michelle. And Burke just throws him in. Burke just picks him up and yeets him in and goes, "See, that's how it's done."
I don't know if they were self-aware enough to be
It's
like doing that in
impossible
a
to
meta
know.
way. It's impossible to know, but it's there, and you can like read into it, and it informs the characters in a way that, again, for point of reference, a Final Fantasy would not have dared to do at that point in time, because the characters there are just archetypes, whereas
We
these
need to talk
characters.
about this game's script.
Oh
Oh,
yes,
Yeah.
wait,
absolutely.
but first, I just want to know. So, Cassidy already said that Farah seems like what is your favorite idiot from the game. Who is everyone else's favorite moron from the cast?
I like how fucking dumb most of them are. But I like how especially fucking dumb Michelia is as like the obligatory like female lead who's just like, I'm a healer woman. I don't know what's going on.
They do her so
Just-
dirty.
Just
Yeah.
like
That
a
game.
parody of that character archetype where she is just completely useless and passive. It's a tremendous group.
I guess I latch onto Burke because he's a big guy who hits things, and he's just the literal worst, like the actual worst, but also the
Absolute
MVP.
worst. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also the MVP.
Yes.
He's the one who destroys the power of Darkseid.
Yeah, he has the sleep axe.
I have a soft spot for Leon the Magician.
Oh
Because
Yeah.
you go into the town that he lives in, and everyone just talks endless amounts of shit about how he's the worst person. Just this terrible dude, and then you fucking go up one screen, you enter his small tiny house on the right, and you just talk to him.
And like he's an
And-
asshole, but
And he's an asshole, but he's like a
like a
Yeah,
normal
the-
asshole.
he's a normal asshole. But like the entire town has been building him up as like this horrible human being. And then he's just chilling.
He's,
And he's just the
mildly
gruff
unpleasant.
He's just he's the grandpa Sid figure from Final Fantasy VII, in that he's older than everybody else by like a couple of years and is 30 probably, and so that means he's just 1 foot in the grave. Yeah, that was
I feel
funny.
that.
Like,
Yeah.
oh
We
god,
have
that
to
whole
talk
like
about how this game was written.
yeah,
So this game, uh Japanese has multiple alphabets. There's kanji, there's katakana, and there's hiragana. And for the most part, modern JRPGs tend to be written in katakana. This game is written entirely in kanji, which
Wait, is it written entirely in kanji, or does it use kanji and kana in inappropriate ways?
I think it's the latter.
I guess
But-
the way that was described to me, I don't know if Cass knows better than we do. The way that I heard it described is kanji is used for certain things like nouns, that kind of stuff, and kana is used for other parts of speech. And this game just kind of like flips what you're supposed to do.
I'm not entirely tuned in. I'm not fluent in Japanese in any capacity. I did speak to Snowy Aria about this. She was present for the streams, and she did have a lot of insight that she got into in terms of like the process of translating and writing the guides and whatnot. But I just didn't think to ask about the script
I,
past a certain point, so it is a bit
I
beyond my.
I will say, like, just looking at the box art, like the katakana used for ancient is non-standard. Like, so the thing about ancient Roman as a name, like why did they do this? Is like the Roman is used as like a romance, more like it in this context of the katakana, not in like implying that they are from this ancient civilization like the ancient Romans. So it's
Yeah,
more like
there ain't
the
nothing
translation
Roman
would
about
be
this game. Not a
the
thing.
translation would be like an ancient romance or an ancient love story, I guess. Uh,
I thought romance like
Or
like
like
romantic movement,
an epic
like a romantic era.
romance. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
an
the
epic.
romance of the Three Kingdoms kind of
Yeah,
thing.
sure. But they use this is irregular, non-standard hiragana. I would say just immediately right off of the like right there on the box art. So
Uh,
it doesn't surprise me that they flubbed or broke some, you know, conventions in terms of the text, like the actual literal text in the game. Beyond that, I couldn't tell you. Is that why the translation of this game comes across as goofy as it is? Is would then be my question. Like,
I believe the intent by Snowy Aria was to replicate the grammatical errors and weird flubs in English, which is why you get rip in peace in the first 15 minutes of this game.
Yeah, this is something that I don't love completely about the translation, and this is a personal taste thing. Again, it's a miracle this got translated at all. It is a labor of love because there is so much goddamn dialogue in this game,
Yeah,
so much text to parse through that. Of course, you're gonna find the occasional line that you're not gonna cotton with or what have you. Uh, Not to bring up a non JRPG or a non RPG in general, but another case of a game where the translation leaves, for as much as it is appreciated for a game that absolutely needed it, Death Crimson 2, the squeakquel to the Saturn's infamous King of Kusoge, Death Crimson, which was translated by Derek A. Team Pascarella, I believe, and is mostly functional. Mostly does it, serves the purpose of translating. But then you'll get like the occasional line that's a little bit too wink naughty, or is like a little bit like meta, or otherwise like maybe misses out on some of like the context that would like make the line make sense in whatever capacity. And again, that's what happens when these games don't get translated professionally or officially, is that you do have to rely on like fan labor, on free labor to get to those ends. So again, when I saw that RIP in peace, I kind of just like groaned a little bit. I'm like, I'm not sure what the original line was here. I'm not sure there's a cleaner way to do that, but it does take you out of it a little bit to encounter that stuff. So do be slightly wary of that. Again, I have a very low tolerance for that kind of like wink naughty thing. It's like putting like all your base references into a translation of a game that is not zeroing, which is like kind of how it strikes me. But again, your mileage may vary. I can't imagine that the original script was super tight. I imagine there probably were issues, flubs, typos, other oddball quirks that made it just a particularly difficult beast to tame in translation. So at a certain point, you do what you can, and you try to replicate the tone as much as possible.
yeah.
And it is what it is.
Localization is a tricky needle to thread even on a professional level. And I think we're all old enough to remember, let's say, the late 90s early aughts tier of fan translation
yeah, there's no Bill
where
Clinton references at least.
yeah,
Oh, that's
there's
a shame.
no uh, uh well, yeah, listen, we'll get to working design at some point.
At some point, we have to talk about Victor
But yeah,
Eilamon.
like the fan translations of the past were definitely you had just dealt with it. You want to play you want to play Fire Emblem Thracia 776? You're going to have to deal with the menus just being broken nonsense because
That's just
because of the way that
what you
game
have
is
to do.
coded.
I guess I will just reiterate. It's just entirely from secondhand hearing from people who do read Japanese is that the original script is just obnoxious to read because it uses the wrong writing systems for different parts of speech and words, and also it's full of typos and mistakes.
Yeah.
So I guess I really appreciate the Snowy Aria's translation. Because to really capture something being fucked up, it's hard to like not clean something up. You know, like the nut man will make you tougher. You know, like that's
Yeah, that
like
was a good one.
that's probably it's like yeah they just didn't do the full Manju. They just did like the man part of Manju. It's like okay, well, do you like add context to that when translating, or do you just leave that as it is? And yeah, this is how it reads.
I got a rash on my ass.
I know you do, CP. I know.
But you're more
Yes.
of a stupid idiot face pervert.
It's like how many
Heard that
Bakans?
about you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been going around. But I really appreciate the fan translation here, just trying to get across how messy the original script
Stuff.
was.
Yeah.
Which is why this is a comedic masterpiece.
Yes.
Yeah, it's part of the
and-
comedic masterpiece.
Yeah, like this game is so we can just get into the story now. This game is unintentionally funny constantly, and literally, as we mentioned before, at some point the characters themselves acknowledge that they've lost the plot and don't know what they're doing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it starts out pretty simple. You're Kai, who is the prince of a kingdom. He's taken from the kingdom as a baby in the very good opening CG, and you're working at a mining camp, and then you escape the mining camp after an uprising. Tales of Arise literally has the exact same opening.
They ripped it off, and
Yeah.
Kai escapes with Burke, the big guy who is the worst, but also the
Yes,
funniest,
and Michelia,
and Michelle, yeah, who
healer woman.
the the writing hates her for some reason. I don't. It's weird. It's so weird. Just like
There's
how
an old guy who is introduced in this scene, and he's like, "Oh, you gotta be careful, Kai. You gotta escape without me." And then, he dies, and there's an entire 2-minute CG cut scene that once again looks amazing, where everyone's like, "Old man who was in the story for 5 minutes, how could you die?"
Well, you got to bear in mind they probably knew him for decades.
Yeah.
Having known nothing but the camp. These people probably were all pretty tight and were just coming in media res.
Yeah.
Wait, but
at a certain
but-
point.
But don't Burke and Michelle have to introduce themselves to Kai before they escape?
Yeah, there is that aspect to it, which does muddle things somewhat. It's fascinating because again, none of these people are necessarily trained fighters, but this is your core three, and Michaelia is ultimately the love interest, one of four, because every lady Kai is absolutely irresistible for some reason, despite being in
He's
his
got
characterization.
Protag-kun syndrome.
He's got
Wait,
he's a
even the elf?
protag. Yeah.
But
Is
he's
the elf
also the
engine?
biggest dweeb who ever lived, the most pathetic
Yes.
fucking loser idiot who has ever protagged. He's just a complete helpless moron who is completely naive to the ways of the world, but also he's the prince, and also he's the savior, and also he's the thing that will the mechanic, the device that will save the world ultimately, because protagonist syndrome.
Yeah, Kai's like a nothing character. There's nothing to him. Just the
But-
vessel.
Pretty much. But again, a vessel that everyone is irrevocably fascinated by and is drawn to by his measure of his magnetic personality. And when he first walks into the first town, the first big city outside of the mining town, he is immediately recognized for his princely heritage. This is not like a late game revelation. This is not a plot twist in the final act. From very early on, you are told, you're the king. You are supposed to be in charge of all of us. We bow down to you, Prince Kai. You are basically our god. And then Kai is like, wow, well, I'm gonna go fuck off now because I feel like I should take care of this mission thing. There's the people turning into monsters disease going around, and that is the name of it. That is the scientific term, is the people turning into monsters disease.
That's
Much,
a direct translation.
Yep.
it's
People
it's much
becoming
like
monsters disease. Yep.
it's just like Death Crimson. It's Kiss of the Tomb syndrome that turns people into monsters. It's just never explained in any capacity, but it has a wonderful title that's completely self-descriptive on its own. And you'll even encounter people who are in the process of people being turned into monsters that you can befriend and feel sympathy for and empathy towards before
Like
you go kill hundreds of them without any second thoughts.
my boy Boo Ray.
Oh, Boo-ray. I love you, Boo-ray. I hope he gets out of
Boo-ray.
prison. I hope they let him out. I hope he turns back into a normal guy. Or maybe not. Maybe it's cooler having, like, the cool insect features. And maybe he just kind of cools down and gets to live a normal life. You never know. Even though you can visit him throughout the entire game across both discs and get, like, updates on him, when the game ends, you don't get a follow-up. And that's the biggest plot hole that I can see, personally, is I need to know what happens to Boo-ray.
Yeah.
I'm still wondering about him.
Well, I also wanted to add, there's a lot more going on in the scene where Kai finds out he's a prince that makes it even funnier. Because it's like at the end of Act 1, you do almost no combat before you get to the city. You go through like 3 towns. It's bizarre. But then they want to go see the sage of the castle about the people turning into monsters disease. Then Kai and Burke get the bright idea to try to join the castle guard because there's tryouts happening. Like, one-on-one combat tryouts like an anime. And like, oh, we can do this. They get there. Both Kai and Bert get their asses handed to them in the tryouts and get ejected. But like the minister of the kingdom notices Kai's necklace. It's like, oh, that only the prince could have that necklace. And then that's how he gets declared Madib or whatever.
There are so many conveniences that are just there as like pure exposition, or that exist for the sole purpose of forwarding the plot of like other characters who you've never been introduced to. This game has thousands of characters, it feels like, and all of them basically outside of your core party members show up for like a scene where they are, 1, fully fleshed out, 2, grant like some incredible amount of detail or like some essential detail to you, and 3, go the fuck off forever shortly thereafterwards. But like they're all pivotal in their own unique ways because, again, the pacing and the exposition here are mastercraft in dialogue and
even
threading a narrative.
Shakespeare sometimes just has like random one-off characters whose job it is to announce something has happened outside of the scene, and it's like that. It's in that grand tradition of
Absolutely.
Yeah,
when
it's
a
like
random character shows up, delivers exposition, and then disappears forever.
100% on the level of Shakespeare is the closest comparison I can draw personally. I know I was saying Final Fantasy VII before, but it's more like a Midsummer's Night Dream if you really think about it.
Yeah.
If you really like want to find something equivalent in quality, we're dancing
like
around the
fairy
plot
that
here.
shows up, right? Like the fairy who just kind of just shows up and it's like, hey, I'm in your party now. It's like,
And
oh,
then
hi. And then
several scenes later, she is your tank. The tiniest member of your party has the biggest heart and also has the biggest HP for a period of time. And then you find an elf village, and she gets hit with an arrow by just a random elf.
No, it's not an arrow. It's the elf that you recruit who's standing guard, just like takes a swipe at her, like before
and
even
knocks
saying
her
hello.
out of your party for the rest of the game because he just mistakes her for some sort of threat, even though she's not. And then that person is like, oh shit, I fucked up. Well, can I join your party? I'm a complete moron who's completely reckless, but I am also going to be completely essential to your party from here on out, to your composition. So one character exits, another enters. And it's basically like the course of the game is just a series of disconnected events. It's impossible to describe the plot of this game. It's very simple. Like once you finish the game and understand what the plot is, it's very basic. Just to summate this whole thing, it is a story of, it's the hero's journey where your Prince Kai, who doesn't know he's a prince, discovers he's a prince, but is honor bound to save the planet and his kingdom and humanity at large from the people turning into monsters disease. There are evil forces at play that are harvesting the power of crystals in order to propagate this people turning into monsters disease. And they also have the ability to possess people in some capacity to brainwash them to their side. It turns out that your father, Kai's father, was one such person who was under the influence of the evil powers. And, you can't get any more specific than that because they don't do anything to flesh out any of the villain characters. They show up like once at the beginning, then they're mentioned offhandedly in like a conversation also towards the beginning. And then for 3 acts, they just don't factor in at all. You don't follow the main plot at all. You're just on a fact-finding mission, basically, as you're trying to figure out what this people turning into monsters disease is. And at no point do you connect it to the evil villain's conspiracy. That just kind of comes out in the last act after you've given up on solving people turning into monsters disease. And you remember that you're supposed to be like also battling the big evil. And then they decide to tie those two things together. And you have a sequence of events where you're defeating sub-bosses, characters who in any other RPG would be like built up across the course of like cutscenes. You'd see like asides or like cutaways to here's the evil villain in his lair dictating orders to his minions, and each of the minions are slightly fleshed out in some capacity as you understand their one-note character type in the way that they receive and enact their orders. But the game just kind of forgets about that, forgets to do any of that. So it just kind of forgets to develop any villains. So it really is just you bumbling around in the overworld, visiting towns, doing like a mission for them, and not forwarding the plot at all. And there's plenty of times people will just be like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about, but hey, can you help us out with this?" And you'll be like, "Yeah, sure, as long as we're here." And then you help them out, and then you leave, having learned nothing or gained nothing for it, except another point on the world map that you can visit. And it's incredible that it does so much with so little, which is to say, it takes what it should be just a very simple plot, forgets about it completely, and then it puts in so much superfluous banter and dialogue that doesn't forward the plot, but is again about developing the characters and their relationships. At a certain point, you have 3 ladies who are in love with Kai, and the game teases the suggestion, the idea that you can pick one over the other, that you can maybe settle on who your queen's going to be between Farah, between Michaelia, who is ultimately the one scripted to be your companion. And there's a third girl who's also a warrior type.
What's
I think
her
that's
name again?
Mina. I believe that's Mina, or is that the elf lady?
That's the elf lady's Mina.
Mina's
It's
the one who ends up with
Karina?
Burke. Karina, yes, that
Yes,
is
Karina.
that
Yeah.
is it. And it's like again, I would assume there was like some mechanic or thing scrapped where there was possibly the ability to elect to go down one path or another, or it could just
Like
be
a
like a Final Fantasy VII situation
like a
where
Dragon
there's no
Quest
saving
V,
Aerith.
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's just signs that point to like what could have been, what was meant to be, and then what isn't. Because again, we gotta get this game out the fucking door. And so when you're pulling out like huge parts of the plot, when you are like the only like remainder or like hints as to the grander like state of the world exist in the form of that one drama CD and then a handful of missions that are completely and easily missable, that speaks to some wonderful quirk, a wonderful flaw in the game design.
Yeah, I just mentioned Karina. So at one point, the party, while just going to visit every sage and a wizard in existence and asking them about the people turning to monster disease, is like the first 2/3 of the game, and all the sages and wizards don't know anything but have a thing for you to do. At one point, it's like, hey, you need to. There's a town being attacked by monsters. You need to go look at that. You're the prince. You go. You find that very temporary party member, McLeod. McLeod.
Yeah,
McLeod.
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 McLeod. Fox
They don't
McLeod,
pronounce it
yeah.
in game, so
Yes, you go and find Fox McCloud, who could open that door to the
Or
dark
that's
side.
also like oddly enough an actual general store. It's like, what the fuck? Okay, fine, sure, whatever, I guess.
Yeah, and then you clear out the town. You find Karina, who's just some lady knight who's trying to like solo the boss. You recruit her. Go clear out an old castle. Kill the boss there. The boss is her dad. Don't worry about it. Find your dead mom. She's still there. Don't worry
yeah,
about
you
it.
just find your mom's skeleton.
No,
like,
no, no,
in some
no. It's a
dusty
character model.
room.
It's a full character model. It's
Is it
not
a full character-
skeleton. It's a full
It's
character
been
model.
years. It's been 20 years. You were a baby.
It's been 17 years.
When she was pushed against like a clock
Oh.
in the corner of a room by a sort of like brutish monster, and apparently that kills her, and no one bothers to like do anything about it or clean up, even though there are still people milling around in the castle where her corpse is just sitting around collecting dust.
And also, she again just full character model, like she died 5 minutes ago. It's fantastic.
It's fine. Someone cast Gentle Repose on her. The D&D spell.
Yeah, so don't worry about. Actually, the whole thing is there's all that trauma that happens to Kai and Karina. And Karina is like a brand new character. Don't know any context for it at all. They're traumatized, but don't worry about it. They get over it.
It's to do another comparison to an off the deep end classic. There's a little bit of the Claves from Eternal Sonata, where characters who have been there for literally 15 minutes get this big old dramatic moment that feels entirely unearned.
Yeah, so after you turn up literally nothing in your search, I think the Minister of the Kingdom's like, hey, you need to go get like your ultimate weapons now. Things are literally just, hey, go get your ultimate weapons on these islands. You get a sailor, and the sailor, who's like, I guess the Cid of this game, is their final character. Barboa, who is their final character. And they just go, and each of the 6 characters has to go to a temple, do a trial. Sometimes it's a boss battle, sometimes it's a cutscene, to get like the powers of the gods for reasons.
Now, in the original game, it should be mentioned in the original design for the game, this is one thing that got cut that we know about, is that you were supposed to be able to summon those gods on a per character basis. There's a grayed out option for it in that prototype. So what this leads me to believe, this is speculation, but I'm probably right, I usually am, is that this was supposed to be done over the course of the game in the original design, that as you were getting characters, maybe like along the way they would have paced this out in such a way that you would discover the ability to gain the power of the gods on your own, and you would, over time each character would eventually do their, I'm calling it a loyalty quest because I'm Mass Effect brained, but you would do your loyalty mission to realize the character's backstory and then get that power of the god and then be able to transform into them or otherwise summon them during combat encounters. But because of the way the game had to be restructured and rewritten, they just do it all at once in the final hour of the game.
It's more than an hour. It's way more than an hour, though. It's the entire third act.
Grant that. In the third act, you're just told by a guy who knows that you should probably do this because you all have the power of the gods within you and you can wield the ultimate weapons, and you'll need said ultimate weapons to open up the gateway to the final area of the game. So go do that. Go take care of that business. And then so they do.
It gets messy, believe it or not.
No.
So they get the power of the gods open weapon. They open the gate to the underworld, see their dead loved ones, and they're doing that to try to find a cure for the monster disease. That doesn't cure the monster disease, but they do find out about the bad guy while doing this quest. So they can just go and deal with the bad guy, and I guess that deals with the monster disease.
Yeah, the whole plot line with the monster disease just gets dropped entirely, and it doesn't even surface itself as a reminder of hey guys, remember that there's the monster disease. You can go back to the previous environments and still see characters that are afflicted, but
I think they do say that the final boss is the guy causing it.
Yeah,
that is the implication that he's using the power of Darkseid, if you will, in order to seed the earth in such a way to turn people into monsters that will be subservient to him. The implication is that he started with people the likes of Kai's father to bring the most powerful people under his influence to take over on a kingdom by kingdom basis and to propagate the people turning into monsters disease. And you have to say the full name of it every time, by the way. Don't just call it a disease.
I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry.
Yeah. You're forgiven for now. But yeah, I think that's part of the grand plan. And I guess the crystals are supposed to accelerate the rate or the pace of that, or the sphere of influence in which the big bad is able to. By the way, I keep calling him the big bad because I don't think he gets a name. If he gets a name, it doesn't fucking matter.
Forgot it.
Yeah, I forgot it because you don't know it until you see his name in the final combat encounter when you get to the final boss battle.
The monks in the trials, there's always a monk at or a gatekeeper at each temple, and one of them mentions his name.
Gizafiel? Gizafiel, I think.
That sounds right.
Gizafiel. Yeah, Gizafiel.
Because remember, you fight him 3 times at the end. Once when he's paired up with Geshtar, and then the triple attack battle, which is, as Borg pointed out, the hardest of the battles. Kill Lucia first. Jesus Christ, she'll drop those magical spells to just
Just
myrtleize
AoE
you.
you, and you can't survive 3
But
AoEs.
speaking of which, with that being pretty much the hardest thing in the game, this reminds me, like, so Cass, you talked about how, like, what if you had loyalty missions? Then this kind of makes sense. That would provide this wonderful end note in the combat to show you, like, a sense of progression. However, it's around this time when literally the entire combat congeals, unofficially, I think, towards the same rigmarole, the same sequence of events, which is sleep axe, Tor high, physical attacks. That's
Or
it.
Thor Hell.
That's Tor Hell once you get the upgrade for that.
Yeah,
Maybe later
that's a
near
fourth
the
level
end of the
spell.
game, Sword Dance when you get closer to the that part, the last phases of the game. But literally, it's around this point when, because there's like no real
Well,
progression, it's sleep
so
axe, attack, Tor high, or Tor Hell.
So the thing is, Sword Dance and Saint's Tolls are the two strongest magics in the game, and you have to go on those side quests to like the ancient high tech ruins to get those, and see the scene where Burke gropes the elf for some reason, like a scumbag, uh, and like
But
you get all that.
this will
Those are actually hidden spells.
this will be the combat for the entire game, pretty much.
It wasn't great
This
before
the
that
entire
either.
third act.
yeah,
What? It's
yeah,
just the
even
thing is,
before it, but like that is the combat.
So the
That's
thing is,
just it.
there's almost no combat in the first act. It's like pretty balanced story to combat second act. Third act is mostly combat, and that's where it really drags down because the third
Well, there's
act
also
is,
those weird moments where you have to solo environments. There's that part where you have to solo the mountain god, but with just Burke, which is
yeah,
fine
that's
because
like
he's
the
just
trials.
sleep axing everything, and then
Those are the
that's
old
okay.
Every character gets their moment to shine, their encounter, their fated encounter for
Except the
story
And I
Charlotte
reasons or
got
for
really
God
skins.
reasons.
worried about that
Cutscene.
because I didn't really have a ton of good stuff on Mina. It didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
Didn't matter at all. Mina was like my worst character in my playthrough. Did not matter. Normally, this is where the game would like punish you to be like, no, you need well-rounded characters. No, it does not. It does not matter.
But also, the economy is completely borked. Because there's so few encounters in the game, you don't get enough money to actually like upgrade as new things unlock in the shops.
And it doesn't
So-
matter anyway because
Doesn't matter
none of that
anyway.
gear you
anyways,
buy
because as we-
matters.
Yeah, because as
Because the
Cass
progression's
pointed out,
also borked.
everything the planned obsolescence in this game is completely wrong. Like all of it is wrong. I mean, it's like cool little trinket I got by going off the beaten path to get this sword, and it's already outdated. It's completely outdated.
It's like, and when this is the point of comparison, this is the real point of comparison. I've joked, I've made mocking allusions and points of comparison, but the closest game to this in terms of design and in terms of just how incompetent it is Hoshi wo Mirahito, in my mind, a game that has no concept of introducing party members and giving you appropriate time to gear them up or understanding like the way in which grinding is meant to be implemented in pace throughout the course of a game, of economy, of what have you, of gear that you're buying being immediately obsoleted by, either the time you get to the next town or just by general progression giving you more important, more key items. It just demonstrates just such a fundamental misunderstanding of the hallmarks of the genre. And it's shocking, especially when you consider that these not Runeworth, when these Fuga System fellas responsible, they'd done that Amaranth series, and from everything I could gather, that series was fine. It made straightforward enough sense as like a strategy style of RPG where it's like top down grid based combat encounters, and those seemed completely normal. Those seemed like straightforward A to B styles of game. They had like a running narrative through the course of like 5 games. So it's not that they didn't know how. It has to be some sort of outside circumstance outside of their control that just conspired against them to throw all their best laid plans into a fucking blender. and then leave them to try to piece together the microscopic specks of it, to try and take this sludge, this slop, this liquid, and try to form some sort of shape out of it in the last minute to try and salvage from whatever catastrophic event wreaked havoc on their game.
Now, the only thing I would add to that, Cass, is because I decided to do a little bit of extra additional homework. I decided to actually boot up some of those Amaranth games, and I quickly came to the realization that Fuga's system has been plagiary for quite some time, because the first two Amaranth games are just Ys 1. They use
Oh,
the
yeah,
bump
yeah.
system.
I mean,
And
most
then
action
A lot
RPGs
of games
are.
did.
most
to their
action
detriment.
RPGs, fair enough. But then you get to Amaranth 3, and they decided to make a tactical turn-based RPG, like a full-on strategy RPG at one point. And then they made it like science fiction set in a modern setting. Weird choice, but that's what they did. So they've always kind of like fiddled with their systems. There's no like singular combat or singular crease or type of the RPG combat system that they've always been married to. They've made tactics games. They've made isometric games that have kind of played a lot like Super Mario RPG. They've done a little bit of everything, and they've never really honed in on one type of RPG in particular. And that's what I got playing those Amaranth games. So I don't think that they knew what they wanted to plug into the whole of what do we want to do for combat. I just don't think that they had anything that they felt.
Or it wasn't even a
comfortable
going
with.
concern for them. If my theory is correct, and Nihon's system told them effectively, here's what we want you to do. Can you do this? And they just said, yeah, sure, we're shapeless, we're formless. We'll do whatever we gotta do, whatever you tell us to do. In the grand tradition of studios like Tosei, of ghost developers who just do as they're told when handed design documents. And Amaranth, for its part, I know there's like some amount of the plot concession I recall is that your protagonist is immortal, but in such a way that if he ever killed, he is reincarnated, but in a different period of time with no memories of his
It's like
previous
Doctor
lives.
Who.
It's like Doctor Who, so that's their excuse for jumping around in time to different eras. That's not their justification for changing genres. I would assume that's keeping up with market trends or what have you. But it definitely speaks to what you're speaking to here is just Fuga Systems' ability to pivot with the times, to change with the times, and do whatever they think the market is going to be most responsive to.
And then
So they're
time came
so
to pivot from 16-bit to 3D, and they are just one of many Japanese developers who could not make that transition. You just mentioned T&E Soft, but they're definitely up there. Time came for 3D technology, and
They rose to the challenge.
Yeah,
they rose to the challenge,
Successfully
and the
completed the
heads started-
mission.
heads
they made
started
art.
rolling.
So what you're saying is they're a typical PC98 studio.
Yeah, like the PC98 era. Like if you were a PC98 developer and you were like weirdly kind of married to that odd version of Windows 3.1 that was on the PC98, and time came for like Windows 95 and 98, and even like the 5th generation consoles with like their own bespoke 3D rendering software that you needed to buy in order to make that work. Not everyone was Nihon Falcom or even Falcom.
I mean, even
like,
Falcom was
there's a
pretty
dark period
inactive
for
for the
them.
later 90s. Like, they didn't start to roll up again until they made E6 and Trails in the Sky 1.
Like there have been multiple dark ages with Japanese RPG development, and I think we also sometimes forget that Dragon Quest was also struggling to get their fucking shit out. It was pretty much just Suikoden and Square kind of keeping the Japanese RPG porch alit, because even like
Wait,
Enix was
what?
struggling.
There were plenty of
Yeah, but
There were
they were
JRPGs.
imitators rather than those tentpole franchises. But
Yeah.
I just like the PC98 era struggled.
Yeah.
Fuga is
I
like
think-
one of many.
Yes, I do think that is a fair thing to say, is like the Japanese PC development scene struggled with the move to consoles.
Or the
But,
move to Windows, or just
or the move to
move away
Windows.
from PC 98. See the documentary 16-Bit Sensation, Another Layer, for more details on that. Someone will
Is
get
there
that joke.
anything else we would like to talk about this game's story?
Well, I mean,
there's nothing more to say,
it's-
is there?
Yeah.
It's Oscar caliber.
I think this genuinely. I genuinely think this is the best piece of Kuso that we have played, because it is the perfect mix of like playable and incompetent.
You know what? This just came to me. This game, this ancient Roman, this power of dark side, between the story and the other elements, but mostly the story, it plays like a parody of a JRPG. It's not
It
intentionally a parody, but the way that it meanders and the way the characters are developed and the way it's paced and the fact that towards the end of the game, they're just like, what were we doing again? Oh, yeah, this. We should go do that. The fact that you are just like the prince of a kingdom, they just give that away, and then there's like, come rule this kingdom, and you're like, nah, I'm gonna do this, and they're like, don't do that, and like, well, I'm gonna go do it because my name is Kai, and I am, I'm a hero, and so I gotta do what heroes do. The word hero in this game is told to you as like this bygone legend. There used to be people called heroes, is one of the first things you are told. And like the implication being that like no one would know what the word hero means unless like you were an old man who was around for those heady days where heroes used to exist. So tragic are the times, so dystopian is the world that the very idea, the very concept of people who are in service of good is an abnormality that people are just like have no ability to reconcile with. It plays like a parody. It is
Yes.
not meant to be a parody. It is meant to be a somewhat serious, joking in some of its dialogue and character interactions, but a mostly straightforward JRPG. But between that narrative and the execution, we haven't even gotten that deep into the music, which let me just say that's the other element.
The music is terrible, but yeah,
This
go
is
ahead.
another element of the game that allowed it to spread in infamy across Japan, was the fact that so there's the soundtrack. You can get the soundtrack CD to this game, and you can hear all the background music as it's intended in CD audio quality with the proper instrumentation, and it's fine. It's a generic JRPG soundtrack. It's inoffensive, and then you play the game, and all that audio is now sequenced to save on disk space to not have like MP3 files taking up most of the disk. Got to free up that space for the FMVs. And I don't know how exactly this was described to me as well, but I don't know how to relay it technically. But there was an issue in mastering the audio where the wrong instruments are selected and play in the wrong keys. And so one of the first villages you go to is a village by the name of Sanitas Village, as it is translated in Snowy Aria's translation. And it's supposed to have just a generic town theme, but the second you start hearing it, you recognize, oh, this is awful. This is the wrong key, the wrong tempo. Everything about this is wrong, to the point where the Japanese web latched onto that, started calling it Sanatorium Village, and that song has been remixed into thousands of MAD videos across the likes of Nico Video and whatnot, where people will use the instrumentation from Ancient Roman for like Undertale or Tales of Arise or what have you for other games as soundtracks with that sound font in the wrong key and tone, and it's incredible.
Yes, it is the Resident Evil Director's Cut DualShock music for the entire game.
Yeah,
yes,
or like
and there's a whole story behind that too, but that's neither here nor there.
That's its own story, and that also might have had issue. I mean, yeah, that thing involved plagiarism and also maybe just had the wrong instrumentation.
When I hear of wrong instrumentation or codexes, I think of Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood, and the way that their long-term music producer accidentally used the wrong codex for music that was incompatible with the platform they had to release that thing on, and then it's like, fuck.
If it can happen to BioWare, it shouldn't be so surprising that it happened to poor Fuga system or Fuga
Yes.
and Nihon over here. But yeah, that's just one more like aspect that is just like a world unto itself that you could talk for hours about and how it affects every single sound in the game and every song in the soundtrack. But like, there's just so much going on in this game. This is going to be, I have a tidy conclusion, a tidy little bow I'm about to wrap this up in here.
Right.
Oh,
That,
can I add one thing before you
please, by all
wrap
means.
this all up? Just a piece of advice for anyone who wants to play it. Don't play it for more than like an hour, hour and a half at a time. Or if you do, turn down the sound a lot because you'll get Havana syndrome playing this game.
Eh,
Uh,
yeah, I guess, yeah.
It could be
because
used
just
as a
like
sonic
a killer
weapon.
headache. I played for like 2 hours one time early on with like sound at like normal volume. Terrible headache afterwards.
No, I think my brain is just so broken by bad games, by only ever playing bad games that it kind of just like it almost washed over me. It was almost warming. It was almost welcoming at a certain point. And in fact, I'm gonna go spin that soundtrack right after this. Not the soundtrack
Oh,
CD, this is the in-game soundtrack. I
don't
kind
don't
of
Oh,
worry.
of course.
The audience at home has already heard multiple examples of this game's amazing in-game soundtrack.
thank God for that.
Yes, I've posted videos to the Discord.
We have I edit those audio clips in for a reason.
I think we've talked about if you're going to play this game, making the recommendation, the suggestion that people, if they want to play this game for themselves. And when it comes to a lot of bad games, it's hard to make that recommendation. A lot of times you can just say, "Hey, watch this playthrough. Watch so and so favorite YouTuber. There's these bad game Hall of Fame fellows. They're great.
You
Whenever
should
they
like and
everything they play, they
subscribe.
turn to comedy gold. So watch them." But there's occasionally a bad
They
game that
play a lot
comes
of kart
along.
racers.
Unfortunately for us,
And
every
then
kart racer.
and then you turn into a supervillain.
I can't recommend playing kart racers to anyone. I can recommend and wholeheartedly recommend playing Ancient Roman Power of Darkside for yourself because
Yes.
it
Yeah.
is imminently accessible because the progression is so borked. It's very like low commitment. It's very low difficulty, especially with the benefits of like emulation because that's the way
It's
you're
also
gonna play this.
short.
It's
In the
shockingly
grand
short,
scheme of
15 hours give or take, like tops. That's if you're doing everything, if you know to do everything, and you
I
should
think I
probably
did. I
play
think
it
I got
with the
13
guide.
hours with my
Yeah.
high completion run.
You should play using Snowy Arya's guide just to make sure you don't miss anything, that you get the full ancient Roman experience, and you can play it. And even if you're not someone who's like advanced bad game player, because not everyone is, uh, there are games that are hard to get into because they just don't make any damn sense, and they're difficult because of that, because the controls don't make like a sense, whatever. But and in RPGs like Hoshi One More Hero, that's an advanced level JRPG. That is not meant for everyone. You have to have a lot of patience and a lot of luck and a lot of like sheer power of will to make it through that. But Ancient Roman is comparatively breezy, and the journey it takes you on is fantastic, is magical, is beautiful. Like honestly, as you're going from town to town, seeing the ways that they're rendered, and you're getting these character interactions, you really do, if they're successful in one thing, if they were successful in one of their actual intentions, design intentions, it is getting you to fall in love with this cast of goofballs because you just are subjected to so much dialogue from them and so much banter and in so much like workings of their inner minds and the way that they confront the plot, the way that they confront like the risks and hazards and obstacles in front of them is like no other party of JRPG protagonists or video game protagonists in general. Like no one in the
Yes.
world would react to situations in the way this party does. And so you can't help but be endeared to them and want to see the quest through. Once you start on the game, like you want to finish it.
Yes.
Not a lot of bad games will give you that sense of drive
I-
and purpose.
Yes.
Ancient Roman absolutely unequivocally does. And because it is so easy to game, because it is so easy to solve for, because it gives you all the essential items effectively just by virtue of progressing and playing, because it's not particularly grind heavy, you can do it. It's one I can recommend to anyone who has a fleeting interest in the RPG space. Even if you're not like a person who prides themselves on playing nothing but bad games, if you're someone who enjoys RPGs, you will play it and you will learn from it. It is a
Yes.
bad game where the flaws are so obvious and are so easily solvable, you will learn aspects of game design. You will learn cautionary tales of what not to do from the experience of having played this game. I've talked about games where you can see how the sausage is made every step of the way just by playing the games. Games where you'll see like lines of code appear in the world floating over your character's head, the likes of Ride to Hell Retribution and Raven's Cry, for just two that come to the top of my mind. And Ancient Roman may not be that broken, where you're just seeing people speaking in lines of code, but you will absolutely see like, well, that's a fuck up there. That's a programming error, and I can make an educated guess as to why this programming error is happening here. And you can confirm those details against Snowy Aria's write-ups on the game and see whether you were right or wrong. You can see errors with the way the structure just doesn't serve the game ultimately. And you will, in your own mind, you will armchair game design better ways that it could have been done. But ultimately, you won't be like frustrated. It won't make you mad that often in the
No.
process of playing it. It'll just make you bemused. It'll make you curious, confounded. And those are wonderful sensations to come away from a game with.
I unironically, I think this game is an easier recommend for people to play than several of the games that we played this year for the podcast. I would say you the audience at home will have a better time playing this piece of garbage than you will playing, I don't know, Star Ocean 3,
Or
a game that
Dragon
I find
Age 4.
Dragon Age 4 is fine.
Yeah, I'd rather play Ancient
I
Roman.
had an all right time playing that game.
Yeah, you did.
Yes, but like it is a beautiful like platonic ideal of playable dog shit.
Mm-hmm.
It is so incompetent on so many levels without being obstructive for you, the player, that it's incredibly easy for me to say, yeah, no, you should look at this.
It belongs in a
People
museum.
should not play. No one should play Descent to Undermountain. No one.
Oh, well, I did.
Yeah.
You made me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's also hard to recommend something like Hoshiwo Mirahito. So like
Yeah.
it's in some ways Ancient Roman is the best intro to kusoge that's out there, cuz you'll finish it. God willing, like if you remain committed to it, you will finish this game. I don't know if you'll finish any other kusoge game.
It's not an exercise in pain the way Lunar Dragon Song is.
But you can get there, I promise.
Oh,
but
you
no,
can
yeah,
beat Lunar
like
Dragon Song too, and it has a similar runtime. The difference is that Lunar Dragon Song hurts
a lot more.
which I guess brings us to ranking this, because that all said, I would
Oh wait,
Okay,
no.
let's
First,
top
first introduce
five,
the
bottom
ranking.
five. Yeah,
Yeah.
do top five, bottom five.
Okay.
That's how we do this.
Yeah. All right. Top 3, bottom 3. So at the
You can
top of
find
our
us at
list,
bit.ly/OTDE rank.
that's right. At the top 3, Might and Magic 6: The Mandate of Heaven, Genso Suikoden the First, and Xenosaga Episode 1. At some point, we'll find games that replace those, but At the bottom 3, we have 3 pinch hitters. At 88, we have Unlimited Saga. At 89, we have Hoshiwo Mirohito. And at 90, we have Descent to Undermountain.
I hate to break to Cassidy.
All right,
you've broken your record of always including a new game at the bottom of our list, because this ain't gonna be number 91.
All right,
no, certainly not.
All right, so I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna just interrupt here to start us off. Is this game better or worse than, let's say, Grandia 2?
I was gonna say no.
No.
Is this game better or worse than The Legend of Dragoon?
Okay, let's.
Oh, so many people would get so angry at us.
I wanted to start at Virtual Highlight, but okay, I guess we're doing this.
Is this game better or worse than Chrono Cross?
I would rather play this game than Mass Effect Andromeda.
Pre-patch Mass Effect Andromeda 2?
All right, so is this game better or worse than Fear and Hunger?
Because I think it's better than Time and Eternity.
Yeah.
Is this game better or worse than Ultima 9?
This game's
better
than Ultima 9.
This is better than Ultima 9.
Ultima 9 is miserable.
Ultima 9 is like over 100 hours long just to get like 1 ounce of the narrative done.
All right, is this game better or worse than Golden Sun?
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to stop us here.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be murdered.
So let's start below that. Borg, do you believe that this is better or worse than Hybrid Heaven?
I actually haven't played Hybrid Heaven, so I'll say yes.
Oh, man.
Hybrid Heaven does let you power bomb a lizard man.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
To me, this game is in the top 10 of RPGs I've ever played in my life.
Yeah, I was gonna go there as
Cass,
well.
let's look at the games that are associated with your name that are RPGs. Like
if I was feeling particularly poisoned today, I would put this as a top 10 game because God, it's an experience.
And it was fun.
I would take this over Scald any day of the week.
No.
Go fuck yourself. So I would say genuinely, I would play this over pretty much half of our list.
But in terms of quality,
it's deeply incompetent.
I think in terms what you have to approach these lists with, this has always been my philosophy, again, methodologies are going to differ from person to person.
Yeah.
But for me, a ranking is a measurement. If I'm going to rate a game, it's a measure of enjoyment for any reason.
Yes.
It's a measurement of my willingness to revisit, to proselytize for a game. So there are going to be games that inevitably, invariably, this game is less technically competent than, it is less good than in conventional measurements, but which we would rather play than the likes of other games on this list. And this game has so much likability going for it. So there's your blanket defense for anyone who might complain about where this game lands. Now, that being said, new number 1, glad to report, first to say it. It's
all right, good. Yeah, all right. I'm glad we all agree on that.
Eat shit, Might and Magic. No, sorry.
No.
But so by that logic, this game is at least better than Disco Elysium.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Okay, I'm gonna give a legit placement for this.
Okay.
This is measuring it, and this is going to be too high for some people. But if I'm looking at this list, looking at the likes of
it'll be a good starting point to start our discussion.
Okay, the 30 to like 50
Hybrid Heaven
range.
is considered to be our line of mediocrity.
Hybrid Heaven. Mediocrity. So you would put this below Dragon Age the Veilguard, but above like Digital Devil Monogatari.
I would put this above Fallout 3.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's because I do feel like Fallout 3, for as much time as I sunk into that game, as beloved as it is,
Yeah.
discounting people who understand the offenses it causes to the
Yeah.
old school Fallout fan, and that it has to be remedied with New Vegas, blah 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 blah, all the baggage attached to that game, and just also considering that game is buggy as a fuck too.
Yeah.
That game is a structural fucking mess in its own sort of
Mhm.
ways. Is for all its positive qualities and for as eminently playable as it is a fucking mess. This game, this Ancient Roman, is also a fucking mess. But
Yes.
whereas Fallout 3 has like a pretty compelling gameplay loop that hooks you in and keeps you playing it, that keeps you driving towards that finish line, Ancient Roman might not have that, but what it has is just a positivity to it, a joy
Yes.
that is comparable to a satisfying gameplay loop
This
in my
game
mind.
is now on my short list of piece of shit video games I recommend to people. It's up there with like Countdown Vampires in terms of like you have done every single touchstone piece of this genre wrong, and the ways you have done it poorly are fascinating to behold.
So with
Also, I
that in
think it would be very
mind,
funny if we
yeah.
put it above Legend of Dragoon.
That would be
It
very
would be.
funny. And I
'Cause-
think it really does, in my mind, hang in that top 30. It may not be the most technically competent, but if you want to explain, like, if you are rating RPGs based on like some measure of accessibility and the ability to like share them with people in terms of just like feeling satisfied at the end of a video game for your commitment of time, for the growing that you do with your party, Ancient Roman does deliver in that capacity, and like the abstract of what an RPG is, especially in the Japanese RPG space. It
Yeah.
does hit those notes. It hits the wrong notes. They're off key, but it does hit every note along the way.
Yes.
Literally off key. All right, so this
Uh,
is the new number 29 then.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine
Okay.
with that, Chris. Do you
Yeah.
have any
Let's
objections?
just do this. We have a funny list. Lists are
It's
intrinsically
fine.
stupid and
Lists
dumb.
don't take this too seriously.
I can't believe
All
I
right.
actually I suggested a place and we actually just locked right into it.
Yeah,
I
no,
remember
listen,
trying.
I agree with you because
I had a lot of
listen,
fun with this thing. It
Legend
was
of
funny.
Dragoon, not to relitigate that game, but like Legend of Dragoon is a great example of a game that does every PSX JRPG trope like to a basic level of competence, or it does everything right. But as someone who has no like nostalgic
Mental
fondness for
bandwidth
that game, it just
or
feels
mental
like
bandwidth.
PSX JRPG, the JRPG.
Like when you make a PSX 5th generation JRPG competently, but only competently, it kludges around. It's 30 to 40 hours long at least, and it's just the same fucking motions over and over again. And you know what? This game at least respects your goddamn time. And
Yeah,
I'm never going to forget this game ever.
no.
I can safely say that I will never forget some of the shit that I saw in Ancient Roman.
Oh,
I've
yep, we're
already
at
forgotten huge swaths
yep.
of Legend of Dragoon and other of its ilk. Its
The only
B
thing I
tier
remember about Legend
JRPG
of
ilk.
Dragoon is Lavit Slambert, my beloved.
I don't remember my childhood, but I'll remember this game forever.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
If you have a problem with this, write a letter to
What's the
thatpinguino@gmail.com.
no? What's the Bad Game Hall of Fame email?
Cassidy at badgamehalloffame.com. I will
Yeah.
happily field those emails.
Or you can go to Cassidy's Discord. Just know Cassidy wields the banhammer.
Yeah.
Or at
Discord.gg/bghof.
yeah, or at 5th Gen Gaming on Blue Sky. So and I'll curse
Yeah.
at you about it.
Yeah. All right. Yes. Congratulations to our new number 9, Ancient Roman Power of Darkside.
New
Wait,
number
number
9.
9. Yeah.
Whoa,
Wait,
29.
What the
That
fuck?
much
New
closer
number
to
29.
number 1.
Yeah. New number 9. Let's go.
No, I'm sorry. This is not better than Scald Against the Black Priory.
Fuck you, Quest for Glory.
I like Quest for Glory. I think it's a charming game. However, yeah, new number 29. After this, we're going back and we're gonna do some car PGing. We're gonna play Racing Lagoon for
Damn right
those
you are.
who may have forgotten. And that will be episode 69 of Off the Deep End. So we're gonna have a nice time, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the new year. We've got plenty of video games of a role-playing category that I will inflict upon my friends, and my friends will inflict upon me.
You might even play Xenosaga 3 at some point.
I have told Jeff expressly he cannot escape. I will go back and finish Xenosaga
Covenant
2
at some point, Braden.
Yeah. I mean, Shadow Hearts Covenant I would genuinely put Shadow Hearts Covenant in the top 5.
Yeah, it's actually a good game.
Like Shadow Hearts Covenant is
poisoned.
Fantastic.
We're all poisoned. We're all
poisoned in different ways. Yes. Well,
get some activated charcoal.
Yeah. Thank you, Zombie Pie.
Sure. Whatever.
You can find him on Twitch at Zombie
more
Pie.
bad games.
He does the blogs sometimes.
I play multimedia.
You need to stop.
You really have to stop.
I'm turning my chair around. Chris?
Yeah?
We're concerned about you.
This is an intervention.
This is an intervention.
Look, I had a copy of Braveheart, the interactive CD-ROM, and I was going to share it with the internet.
Yeah.
What are you fucking
Braveheart's tearing this family apart.
We need you to stop playing multimedia encyclopedias.
I had a demo disc of Comedy Central's sports shorts where it was just snippets of stand-up comedy related to sports.
We need to set that on fire.
All right, new favorite 3DO game, by the way. I was wrong. Take back Iron Angel. It's Dennis Miller. That's news to me on the 3DO.
No. God. No, don't do that.
We need you to go back to playing racist adventure games made by Europeans, Chris.
At least choose a better game like that, like the 3DO Wacky Racers game that runs at 5 frames a second.
What about all of those Activity Center games from Disney?
Those are not games.
Those aren't games. Go play like Freddy Fish or something. Like
play dang Freddy Fish. They made 6 of them. Ron Gilbert
were so happy
and
joyous when we played the Museum of Anything Goes.
I hate that thing so much. I cannot express to you how angry watching you go through that made me. Like that and the fucking ghost thing with Christopher Lee. Anyway, you can find him on twitch.tv/zombiepie. You can find Adam Borgmaster Redacted, who thank you for being here, at twitch.tv/5thGenerationGaming.
And my blog at 5thGenerationGaming.blog.
And a special thanks, as always, to our Kusolstice guest, Cassidy from the Bad Game Hall of Fame. You can find them at twitch.tv/BadGameHallOfFame. They have a fun Discord. They have a fun website with write-ups. And they have a fun YouTube channel with archives of said streams. Thank you, Cassidy.
That is at Bad Game Hall of Fame over on YouTube as well. We also got a suggested viewing playlist on there. I'm going to recommend one thing that people visit to get a taste for what I'm usually up to. It is probably to go over to that YouTube channel, check out that suggested viewing playlist, and pick one of our 20 handpicked episodes of the show. Yeah. Or go watch the Ancient Roman Power of Darkside playlist if you want to see this game played in full. If we have not sold you on playing it for yourself. It's 5.
Commitment.
It comes out like 15 hours or so.
Yeah.
Oh, and also listen to Chariots of the Pods on the Deep Listens podcast feed. It's the Stargate SG-1 rewatch podcast I host. We have fun there. We talk about Grandma Space Hitler and bug hunts and brain blasts and all kinds of things that happen out in space.
All right. Thank you, the listener at home, and we wish you a happy and Kuso-filled New Year. There's no such thing as cheating in a single-player game. Bye.